Welcome back to another episode of Kaleidoscope. My guest today is Chief Patrick Purcell of the Fire Department, and we're going to have what he has referred to as a fireside chat. So welcome, Chief. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, we appreciate everything you do, so this is just a bonus, so I can hear all of what you do over again, because I learned so much about you when we first chatted. Let's start at the beginning. This isn't a position that people wake up one day when they're a kid and say, oh, gee, I want to be a fireman, unless they're little kids who want the little fireman hat that they give out on Fire Prevention Week. So what was your impetus for becoming who you are today?
So I think I am the exception. I think I did know right from when I was very young, probably around the first grade, that I wanted to be a firefighter. I think it was motivated by my father. Although he wasn't a career firefighter, he was a volunteer firefighter in the town of Oxford, and he enlisted there in 1977. And I spent a lot of time at the firehouse. Oxford had 2 fire stations, so bouncing back and forth between both, and knew a lot of the members of the department. And back then, volunteer departments were pretty robust, so I got a lot of exposure to a lot of different people and a lot of different ways to do things, even from a small age. And I think they even tried to engage me in like the first grade. I was allowed to ride on a fire truck as like in the blizzard of 1978, helping shovel up fire hydrants when the storm was over.
Goodness.
So I think it's really been something that I was born into.
Born into, definitely.
Sure.
Now, you have a staff and a group of trained firefighters. How many do you have that you oversee in Westborough?
So at the Westborough Fire Department, we have 49, including myself, firefighters that are career firefighters. We have 1 executive assistant. We have 9 career dispatchers and about 5 or 6 part-time dispatchers as well. So in total, I have about 65 employees.
That you oversee.
Yes.
And in overseeing them, it includes a lot more from what I, in my mind imagined of your job, because you not only have to oversee and make sure their paperwork is done or getting their paychecks put through and all of that other administrative things. There's a great deal that goes into when the doors open and the fire trucks and the ambulance leave. And you mentioned that at one time that you had 20 to 30 in a single day for calls, for support.
Sure, that's become our new normal here in Westborough. I could tell you on a day last week we did 31 calls in 24 hours with a staff of 9 people. Yesterday there was more than 20. So we average lately somewhere between 20 and 30 calls per day, usually all emergency calls.
All emergency?
Yes.
Which, does that include the house or place on fire, or is it when you say emergency where you send out the EMTs because someone is having a heart attack, or
Sure.
What is emergency? Because your whole job is a big emergency. So how do you delineate?
Pretty broad service that we deliver, and based on like the amount of money that we bring back to the town in revenue and grant funding versus what our overall budget is. When you look at everything that we do in totality, I think it's a pretty good bang for the buck, and that's the product that we've tried to deliver. So if you break down like what does your fire department do for you? So yes, we go to fires and we put out fires. We also are responsible for a paramedic service. So we have three paramedic ambulances that are in service all the time, and we have a reserve, the mechanical spare. We perform technical rescue, and that would include cutting somebody out of a car, maybe rescuing somebody from a trench, high angle rescue, low angle rescue, slope angles. We scuba dive. We have a part of our corps that are trained scuba divers. Some of these very technical things, though, it's not efficient to train my entire department to operate at that level. So we join regional teams. So the fire department here in Westborough is part of Fire District 14, and the entire state is broken up into districts. There's 23 cities and towns in our own district, and we span from as far away as Carlisle to Milford, and as far out as Concord, and as far this way as Westborough and Shrewsbury. So within that fire district, that's where we try to exercise some efficiency. So we'll have a portion of our department that is trained in fire investigations, a portion that is trained to scuba dive, a portion that is trained to do technical rescue, not the cutting people out of cars, but like the very technical things like a high angle rescue or a low angle rescue or a confined space entry or a trench incident, collapse, like very, very detailed, high risk, low frequency type event. We also are the emergency management division for the town, so we do a lot of planning. So when you hear the code red messages go out, those are usually from me. We manage a comprehensive emergency management plan. We manage a hazard mitigation plan for the town. We are part of the Web EOC, which gets us direct communication to other communities and MEMA in the state. We manage like dam infrastructure plans for dam emergencies. There's a variety of things that we do. We train on sheltering. So that's like another division that we do. We have a community risk reduction division. So we have 2 full-time fire inspectors that work Monday through Thursday during the daytime hours, and they do a lot of code enforcement and plan review. And that, as you know, in this town, we're a very heavy commercial community. They're very busy. Also in that division, we have firefighters that will liaison into that unit for fire investigations and community education, public education. We train a lot of the town employees on CPR, first aid, AED, stop the bleed until help arrive for those kind of programs. So it's a really comprehensive program. And then to cap it off, we're the primary public safety answering point. So all 911 calls that hit cell phone towers or come from landlines in Westborough come to the fire station. So we oversee emergency dispatch for fire, police, and EMS. And the dispatchers are very well trained here. So if you have a medical emergency and say someone needs CPR but you don't know it, they will do pre-arrival instructions and stay on the phone with you and walk you through it so you can actually start working to save a life before we get there. So a lot of things that we're proud of that we do. And that's just the emergency things. Like we train every day, we maintain our building, we maintain all of our apparatus, but training is really our culture. So the firefighters that are on duty train every single day in that department.
And train, you mean putting out fires or going to a, I know you mentioned about going to a site that actually allows you to have the building burning and you work there, or you take the trucks out and you learn how to do new things with ladders if they're different.
So we break down what our core mission is into segments, and we write a curriculum. And that curriculum is uploaded into our record management system, and we deploy the same training module to our 4 groups of firefighters every day. One thing that I don't think the public realizes is that we don't have firefighters and paramedics. We have everybody is trained to do everything. So of the 49 of us that work there, I am a fire chief / paramedic, firefighter / EMT or paramedic. So when the firefighters come to work on Tuesday, they'll probably be assigned to a fire truck during the day and an ambulance at night, or the opposite. So we rotate around and we get to work on every discipline that we have. So they'll be on maybe the engine during the day, maybe the ladder truck at night, the ambulance on the next shift, and they get to rotate. It's a really diverse amount of responsibility that we have. And people expect us to be perfect. That's why we train. The people don't call us on their best day. Usually they call us on their worst. And whether that's because there's a fire or somebody's having a significant medical problem, or maybe there's a broken water pipe and their house is getting flooded. So they're looking for us to be able to control that water break, maybe protect some of their assets. We do those things. We go to a lot of car accidents in this town.
Yes.
Yes, we have. We are responsible for a lot of roadways, particularly high-speed thoroughfares like the Mass Turnpike and Interstate 495 and Route 9. So we visit those roadways probably every day. Maybe not all of them every day, but at least one of them, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a day. But overall, we train so we can respond to all of those types of calls and never be wrong, never get it wrong. We don't train to get it right. We train to not get things wrong.
Now, from my past as a child, the idea of the firefighters in there were that they sat around having coffee or having supper, whatever their timing was, and chit-chatting until the alarm went off.
Sure.
And then it's all hands on deck. But you described a very different day for contemporary, the needs and demands on a firefighter today is incredible. And that not only the curriculum, but taking care of the equipment and knowing how to use the new equipment. And I found it interesting when you were talking to me earlier about the number of showers that a firefighter has to take, not because they're phobic about being clean, but because they enter into some places that are so contaminated or the fire has made it contaminated. So tell us a little bit about that part of it, because that really surprised me, that you told me you had to change the type of hose you use because there's plastic now.
Sure.
That was just beyond what I could imagine you were doing behind those closed doors and garage doors.
So those are kind of different topics, but we'll hit the first one first. So the taxpayer is always our priority. Firefighters' health and safety is right up there with the taxpayer safety. We have a responsibility, I have a responsibility to my organization to provide the firefighters with equipment that is clean, equipment that is, not laced with carcinogen, not contaminated with infectious disease. And frankly, we go to a lot of calls where things are on fire and we either inhale or absorb particulates of combustion. We go to some medical calls where some people are really sick and they may have something in their airway and we have to place a breathing tube, or somebody vomits and we get that on us, and all these different factors. So after every ambulance call, we have to decontaminate an ambulance. We also decontaminate ourselves. So do we have to take a shower after every single call? No, we don't. But when you have something with like a gross decon that's required, we absolutely look for a change of uniforms. We have laundering facilities. We have extractors to wash our fire gear. We have equipment washers to wash a lot of our face masks and our air packs and any of the hand tools and hose. And it is impressive the amount of stuff that comes through that water, like when we wash it. And that's unfortunately, up until we really started focusing about a decade ago on health and safety for the firefighter, when we really saw the cancer rates exacerbate, we would see that coming off our own skin and out of our own nose, like in the shower for days after a fire. So we've really gone a long way to make sure firefighters have 2 sets of turnout gear, because when we only had one, we couldn't wash it after a call because if there was another fire, we didn't have gear. Right. So we try to have 2 sets for all personnel. We have a policy on washing our hoods that we wear every Sunday. We wash our fire gear every time it's contaminated, and we have an annual mandatory. Everybody washes their equipment per policy. We all these rules that we have are dictated by standards, and those are the standards that we try to follow. We tell people to take a shower after a serious call before they go back in service. Excuse me. Cancer prevention is like paramount. We have free classes and free health screenings that we can get through the Fire Academy. And that's not just for us, that's for retirees. So we can get CAT scan of our lungs, skin cancer testing, we get a PSA drawn, we can get ultrasounds of our organs, we can get a variety of tests. There's about 10 that we are entitled to, that we should take advantage of on an annual basis, because cancer in the fire service is a very big problem. So if you look at the rate of cancer versus the general population, it's higher. And you can see that out of many studies that were done, most recently, I think, out of the University of Cincinnati. But the most staggering thing was the amount of fatal cancers in firefighters is like 14% higher than general population.
You did mention that for having that process of cleaning and making sure that everyone was healthy, that you also provide social and emotional support as well. So you're really not just the chief, but you're like the person who is caretaking all of these people on your shoulders.
Sure.
So not only, again, for looking out for them, getting a curriculum to train them, getting all of the tests they have to take, but your office calls and finds out what kind of building is on fire, so you know whether, just explain that to me, because I found it so fascinating, where one building, you ask how old the building is, so you'll know how to go into the fire and protect your men and women.
Yep, sure. Again, two different topics. So one involves like a stress unit. The other one involves like a building size up and pre-planning. So the town or the taxpayers have invested in a record management system for the fire department. And we purchased a software called First Due. And that manages everything from our schedule to our call reporting, because we write a report for every call we go on, required by law. Manages all of our assets. But it also has a mapping software where we tie into the assessor's database, and we can go out, and we do go out, and we pre-plan buildings, particularly high hazard occupancies. So if there is a fire on the way to the call, the officer on the truck, which would be the lieutenant or the captain, can go to the MDT, the mobile data terminal, and they can see that building before they get there. And we can see where the fire department connection is. We can see the age of the building, where the fire alarm control panel is, if there's any hazardous materials in the building, if there's an AED in the building, if there's an elevator, a stairwell, a roof shaft, and these are the things that we look for. An important factor with today's construction is, as you alluded to, the age of an occupancy. So somewhere in the last 15 years or so, we went to lightweight construction for residential homes. Prior to that, everything was modern construction, very durable, lasted a long time, and we had a significant amount of operating time inside of a building fire. Now we have pre-made floor trusses, roof trusses, everything is lightweight construction, which is strong when it's not on fire, but it also collapses very easy. So if you go online and you research how long someone has to escape from a fire, it's a very, very short window now.
Oh, dear.
Compared to 20 years ago through now. And we're seeing buildings fail faster today. For the mental health part, so we have a peer support unit. We're part of a regional peer support unit as well as our own internal. We have a captain that works for us. His name is Dan Hare. He's been the leader of that division for our department for a couple decades. Unbelievable ability to communicate with firefighters. So when we go on a significant call, they have what they will call a diffusion after the call, which could be just really quick, down and dirty, 5-10 minutes. And then we have the ability to evaluate our staff, or they will voluntarily come and say, hey, I think we need a debriefing, which is a much more comprehensive program that we would get everybody that was at the call back into a room, pull people out of service, and they would go through that. We have opportunities outside of our organization to send people for mental health help. We recently, one of my other responsibilities is I'm the president of the Fire Chiefs Association for Massachusetts. We just put a program together for chiefs, because chiefs don't usually get the opportunity to take care of the local programs. You want your firefighters to go and be able to speak freely and not worry about a chief officer being in the room. So we just put a virtual program together for fire chiefs with a vetting process, so they can vet like what clinician is best for them. They can attend in person or in Zoom. So we're making really great strides on making sure that our personnel are resilient, so that they can endure an entire career of seeing the things that we see. And we evaluate people actually before they even start. So everybody that works here in Westborough goes for a psych profile, and we identify their strengths and weaknesses. And really what we do is we zero in on their weaknesses and try to marry them up when they get assigned to a group with firefighters and fire officers that are kind of like-minded. So that way, if we target their weaknesses and work on those, we really end up with a pretty great employee, and we've been very successful at that.
Yeah, it must be an amazing group of people who are willing, just like veterans and other people who serve in dangerous situations, to run into a place that's burning when everything in your health, mental health, your body is telling you, run the other way.
Sure.
How do you train someone? Do they come with that? I can do this?
No, I think everybody gets nervous at the beginning. I can remember my first fire I went to, I was very scared. And that transitioning 35 years later, 35 years next month, I'm very comfortable. I'm more probably comfortable in a burning building than outside sometimes, to be frank with you. Like, I think you develop a lot of senses when you go into, like, we call them IDLH environments, or immediately dangerous to life and health, but we wear our PPE the right way, our personal protective equipment, and operating in those environments regularly over that amount of time, you become very comfortable. You don't ever let your guard down, because that's when you can get hurt. And then you have a responsibility to train, mentor, coach younger firefighters that don't have that experience, and you want to put them in a position to succeed, so that throughout their career, as they enhance their senses and their capability and become more comfortable, then they'll turn around and do the same thing for firefighters that come behind them. So that's really how our profession has worked for a long time, because it's not natural to be in a burning building, and it's not natural to be in a flipped over car, and it's not natural to, the environment's throwing some curveballs at us to operate in adverse weather like that. It's a challenge. So really being there and mentoring and coaching newer employees is imperative.
You have this enormous responsibility at work, which you love, and you do it well. But it also doesn't discount the fact that you have an entirely other life that's called home.
Sure.
And maybe recreation.
Yeah.
So how did your family and how did you reconcile? Did your wife, when you were first into this position, terrified every time the ambulance or the fire truck went out, thinking that you weren't going to come back or you would be injured? Or did she just take it with, you married the right kind of person who just said, I know you can do this, I'm not going to worry, which no one ever doesn't worry about someone. But how do you balance that, and how much time do you have left or energy left? Because you have a great deal of energy if you can do that during the day, and you are still busy doing political things. As you said, you're the head of statewide, and you go to this Capitol to talk on various issues. What's home like?
So I was already in this for a really long time when I met my wife.
Oh.
She's what she was at the time, an emergency room nurse, and she knew a lot of my peers. So I think she had the opportunity to see me perform on a medical side. I don't know that she worries. I think she knows that not only am I capable at my job, but she knows a lot of the people that work for the department here, and she knows that we really take care of each other. We got to go to an event with them last week, and I think just knowing socially the people that I work with, I think she's got the utmost confidence in them to bail me out when I do something dumb. So,
Well, and she's an ER nurse, which she's used to high intensity.
Yeah, yep. So,
got a good match there.
yes, as far as my kids, my youngest two are twins, and they probably don't have they actually have been with me when I've been called back to work. So they've gotten to see some of that, and I don't think they have an appreciation for the level of change. So I don't think it phases them. But my oldest daughter, I think, how you transition as you're growing up. They get to hear all the stories, and they get to see everything that we go through. And now she's, she's in the police academy to be a police officer, and getting all this education, and calling me on a regular basis saying, oh my God, all this stuff makes sense that you said or you did all these years. I completely get it. And I understand why you are about some things. And I totally understand. That makes sense now. So she's got a pretty good grasp on me and what public safety is, and, kind of gives her an advantage of how she's going to respond to some things going forward.
My goodness, a whole family that's committed to helping others is really amazing.
It's really been that way across my entire family. So my father he was the fire chief in Oxford. Oh. My grandfather was a police lieutenant in Worcester. I had an uncle who was a school superintendent, an uncle who was a town manager, a cousin who's a firefighter. I mean, really, nurses, aunts that are nurses. I mean, my sister's a public health director.
Oh, geez.
For a community. So really, it's public service has been a thing for my family for as long as I can remember.
Conversations around the holiday table must be interesting.
Yeah.
So what is your goal for the future when you finally say, what is it you dream of having time to do? And I know you gave me a long list, but just a few things that you'd like to,
For me personally,
yes. And then we'll talk about the town.
so I want to travel more. I want to see the rest of the world, and I would like to golf a lot more. And I'm a big sports fan, so I like to visit different stadiums. I would probably put that back on. I've kind of put that on pause for a while since I've been the chief, but I'd like to probably do that a little bit more as well.
Travel, and I know you like to garden.
I do. So vegetable garden, sure. I find that stress relief when I
Definitely.
do that at home. Sometimes I'll go right to the garden before I go in the house, and it gives you some
Decompress.
Yes, sure.
Nature helps you in that way.
I think it's rewarding when you can grow something that you put on your dinner table that night.
And watch it nurture instead of watching something be destroyed.
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell you how much that I personally, having grown up living across the street from a firehouse in a city, and how kind they always were to these two little girls that would run over with their father to just be able to slide down. They
Sure.
put us on the pole to slide down. I just thought they were the best people in the world, and I still do. And that we have such a dedicated group of men and women. You also, which people may not know, the town may know, but a lot of people may not know, that you have a foundation now with the police department, and you've been able to raise money through that. I didn't know that other towns or insurance companies paid you for someone who's being carried on the ambulance. You get revenue from that, but that you're also working very hard with corporations. I always see my friends from Apple, or what's the other place over here? It's Amazon. Giving you some support, and I think that's so worthwhile as a citizen.
So the ambulance side of what we do is very time consuming. An ambulance call used to take us about an hour. Now they're 2.5 hours because of turnover of patients at the hospital. But the behind the scenes, what you spoke of with revenue, so we take the taxpayer dollar very seriously, and we don't leave a dollar on the table if it's out there. We pursue that. So I put an extraordinary amount of time into working with insurance companies, working with our billing company, pursuing like the right insurance if someone's in a car accident, their car insurance, a workers' comp if it's a workers' comp claim, Medicare, Mass Health, Fallon, Blue Cross. We on a regular basis we try to get all of the information right the first time, because we believe that's our responsibility. The taxpayers invest a lot of money, and we want to make sure we're doing our part to bring back what's theirs. It's not ours.
Yeah.
There's a lot of licensing requirements for the ambulance. We undergo a mandatory inspection through the Department of Public Health every year, from top to bottom, from our personnel records to training records to the fleet, to make sure it's clean, make sure our equipment's calibrated the right way. So we're constantly calibrating our, glucometers and having our cardiac monitors, the annual and biannual testing done. We have vents like in an operating room or like an ICU when you're on a breathing machine. We carry those. We carry IV pumps. We carry CPR machines. We carry a lot of technology on the ambulance that requires a lot of support. There's mandatory training requirements through the Department of Public Health. So we try to do as much of that as we can on duty. It's a challenge because we're interrupted by calls often.
Oh.
But there is a lot that goes into running a paramedic service. It's not just a fly-by-night thing. It's a lot.
Well, I think you have more than enough on your plate, and you do it well. And I thank you so much for taking the time to chat with someone who really has held firefighters to the highest esteem. Always been afraid of police officers.
Oh, they're
Not
great.
that I ever did
in this
anything.
town. In this town, they're great.
No,
They
but
are.
just as a kid, I always thought if I ever got in trouble. But firefighters always seem to be there to help you. So thank you so much for all you do and for joining us tonight. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in this little fireside chat. Take care.
Thanks for having me.